Hello, young people at Dillard University. I want to thank you all for tuning into this. I think that this is going to be a great conversation. As you know, this week in part of FYS, we want to prepare you for the real world. And that real world sometimes means that you need to gain employment. And we want to help you be able to do this. So imagine this week in FYS is the springboard to your professional journey to gain employment. And one of the things that opens that gateway and puts you on the path to gainful employment is a resume. It is the introduction to you before a company can actually meet you and see you in person. So you have an assignment coming up that requires you to put in your to submit your resume on Canvas, so your teacher can kind of give it a little spot check. But I didn't want to leave you out here in the cold without having, some of you may have never done a resume before. And I don't want to just leave you out here with no information. So I thought that I would expose you to one of our experts on campus, Dr. Jonathan Wright, who is the director of the Career and Professional Development Center on campus located in the Student Union. So he's going to give us some tips on how we should structure our resume, what it should look like, and why it's important and what we need to do. So I'll bring Dr. Wright on and we'll get to having this conversation. All right.
Hello, Blue Devils. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to share some tips and strategies to help you improve your resume so that as you improve on your transition and your persistence at Dillard University, you will be also preparing yourself for the global marketplace. So let's get started.
All right, Dr. Wright. So when we think about resume, what are some of the common mistakes that students make? No. Let's not even talk about mistakes first. Let's just talk about the general concept of the resume. Like, why do we have it? What is it here for? Like, what should I, as a student, want to put on my resume? Because I might not have any work experience. I might not know that I have a skill or something like that. So I want to make sure that I can make a good impression without, them seeing me first.
Okay, let's start here, students. Dr. Jeff, great questions. Let's start here. Why a resume? A resume is your representative. A resume is your way of telling a potential employer what you bring to the table, who you are and what you bring to the table. You oftentimes have to submit a resume or a digital resume or even a digital portfolio of something that tells an employer your knowledge, skills, and abilities. Those are the three keywords that you should remember: knowledge, skills, and abilities. You want to be able to tell an employer what your knowledge, your skills, and your abilities are as it relates to a position that you may be interested in, an internship opportunity, or even if you are interested in applying for graduate and/or professional school, you still want to be able to highlight your knowledge, skills, and abilities. And your resume allows you the opportunity to do that. All you need in order to create an effective resume are these two things. You need a pen and a piece of paper. I think before any student starts to really type out and construct a resume, they should first take out a pen and a piece of paper. And on that pen and on that piece of paper and with that pen, I want you to really highlight and ask yourself, what knowledge do I have? Now, you may say, Dr. Wright, I'm just a freshman. I just entered school. I don't have any knowledge. That is not true. You have gained knowledge ever since you graduated high school and since you've been here at Dillard University. And what we mean by that is employers are looking for things that can highlight what are your written and oral communication skills. You've demonstrated since you've been at Dillard and prior to coming to Dillard that you have effective written and oral communication skills. So you have those skills, right? Two, you have been using applied digital skills since you've been at Dillard. You have used Google Docs, you have created PowerPoint presentations, you've done oral presentations, you've worked in small groups, you've shown and demonstrated the core or the key competencies that any employer would want in a student or a potential candidate for a position by what you've done already. You just need to highlight that. Many of you are interested in opportunities and roles on campus in student organizations and Greek letter organizations, and you have to do your community service. So you think about your volunteerism. What you should be thinking about when you're doing these things is what knowledge, skills, and abilities am I gaining that I can highlight to a potential employer? Those are the things that you really want an employer to know. One, what is your major? I am a student at Dillard University. I am majoring in, when is your expected graduation date? Just tell the employer. If your expected graduation date is 2023, just put 2023, May of 2023. But you want to tell the employer when you will be ready for a full-time opportunity and when you will earn your first credential. And your credential, of course, will be the bachelor's degree that you will soon obtain. The second thing you want to tell an employer is, what digital applied skills do you have, or applied digital skills do you have? And oftentimes students fall short in that. They think about the soft skills, which are great, and we'll talk about them. But the things that you should want to know an employer to know are, I do know how to use Google Docs, Google Forms, Google Sheets, Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Microsoft Excel, or any of those other. I do know how to, if you have a work study job, I do know how to work or use a multi-line telephone system. I do know how to file. You want to be able to really project management. So if you are involved in these organizations, that means that you have critically thought about some things. You have worked in a group. That means you may have led a project, but you really need to talk about that. If you are serving in a role in which you are communicating with your fellow members in your organization, or you are communicating with the larger group, how are you doing that? And you need to highlight that, because that is, again, a demonstrated skill, but it's also talking to an employer about your written and oral communication skills. You want to be able to, again, tell the employer who you are. What is my name? What is the general location I am located? How you can reach me. You want to talk about your education. You want to tell the employer when you're graduating, and be definitive. I graduate May 23 or May 2024. Be specific with that. You also want to tell an employer about your applied digital skills. Don't shy away from the fact that, hey, I am using Google Docs, and that is a skill that an employer wants. I have created a PowerPoint presentation. That is a skill that an employer wants. I have done written and oral communications, and I have presented. That is a skill that an employer wants. I have worked in small groups. That is a skill that an employer wants. I have led projects, and I can talk to an employer about the projects that I have led. Those are the things that you really want to highlight. Then you want to highlight any experiences that you have. As a young student, I encourage you now in your second semester as a freshman to really start applying for internship opportunities. Now is the time for you to just apply for any internship opportunity that is available to, again, add to your what? Knowledge, skills, and abilities. Dr. Jeff, I'll take your next question. I hope that I answered you in full.
Yes, so you hit it on the head: knowledge, skills, and abilities. I have I guess I have a point that's always in contention, I think, every year, when we do resumes, and I want you to weigh in on this for me. Where does it so you said we have to list, our major graduation date, and applied digital skills, but in the grand structure of the resume, where does the major go? Should that be towards the top of the resume, or at the bottom, or can I put it in the middle? Or just education experience in general? Because a lot of them are going to look at a template for a resume online, but for you that works with this all the time, where does that go? Top, middle, bottom, side, where?
That is a great question, Dr. Joe. Thank you for asking. Young Blue Devils, let me share this with you. I am currently working with a graduate of Dillard University who graduated in December. She has a phenomenal resume. I was so impressed with her resume that I asked these questions of her. I really like your resume, but I only have one question. Why is your education buried at the bottom of your resume? As a professional and a career professional, I want to advise you that you really should highlight your education at the top of your resume. You should be proud of the accomplishment that you have, and that will be reflective to any prospective reader that is viewing your resume, that your education, when you're graduating, the degree that you've earned is highlighted, and it is important to you because that is the one thing that is going to get you into the door of any opportunity that you want. The other things that will follow are going to really tell the employer about what you've gained, the experiences that you have, your knowledge, your skills and abilities. It's going to start to really re-emphasize those things after your education. The student that I talk with and I'm working with, she has phenomenal experience, but her resume, her education is buried at the bottom of her resume. She had her resume professionally done. My only critique of her resume was to please put your education at the top so that an employer can readily see that you, as a graduate of Dillard University in 2020, are ready to contribute right away. So I would encourage you, be proud that you are about to earn a credential, your first credential of many. So do not bury your, or use a template that may suggest that you put your education at the bottom. I would also caution you against using resume templates. After you've written down on that piece of paper what your knowledge, skills, and abilities are, I ask that you use Microsoft Word and simply type in Microsoft Word, use Microsoft Word as your blank canvas and create from what you've written. You know that your heading should be your name. You don't have to give specific physical location in terms of your specific address. You can put a region. So you can put the New Orleans area or any other region in which you want if you are wanting to use your home region. You, after that, need to include a good cell phone number for an employer to reach you and a good professional email address. As a young student, it is okay for you to use your Dillard student email address because at this point, you should really just be applying for internship opportunities and seeking to enhance your knowledge, skills, and abilities. I hope I answered your question, Dr. Jeff.
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't even know that you could put a region on there instead of like your specific address. I think all these years I've been putting my specific address on there. But I'm gonna be honest, I try not to apply for jobs anymore. Like I just want somebody to knock on my door and give me one at this point.
I tell you, Dr. Jeff, as people need to really understand this point. A resume is a living, breathing document, and it involves as you evolve as a person, but it also involves with the time and the culture around you. Back in the day, Dr. Jeff, and you and I were really putting our physical address on those. Employers may have mailed us some communication with regard to our status with the job opportunity. Now, employers are doing things electronically. We also live in an era where everyone really wants to protect their privacy. We have more people in the job market that are searching for job opportunities, and identity theft is really on the rise. So a lot of people think about those things and protection of your privacy, and you can generally just put the region in which you reside. I oftentimes tell students that are using their physical address that it is fine for you to do so, but I also do not tell those students that prefer to use their region that it is wrong either. Either is preferred, so it's really up to you, the student, if you want to give your address. I would also caution you, if you are living in one of the residential halls, if you are going to use 2601 Gentilly Boulevard, you really need to spell out how an employer can send you some type of electronic communication. But if you're only going to put 2601 Gentilly Boulevard, New Orleans, Louisiana, that is not going to get either information from an employer to you or otherwise. So you may want to only use the region. So that is another way. So you again want to highlight, one, your education should be right under how an employer can reach you, who you are. Secondly, you want to highlight your education right underneath that. Thirdly, you want to talk about your applied digital skills that we've talked about. Then fourthly, you can go into these areas if you like. If you have done a volunteerism that you may want to highlight since you have been at Dillard University, that is great. If you want to talk about on-campus leadership or on-campus involvement to include the organizations that you are in, that is great. But do not just include organizations. Make sure that you are talking about your role within the organization and you are highlighting within that role your knowledge, skills, and abilities that you have gained and are demonstrating that will make you readily available to contribute to an organization right away. Oftentimes, students only list they were a president of this organization, treasurer of this organization, but they never really tell the reader what demonstrated knowledge, skills, and abilities that they performed while in that role. Again, you want to try and separate yourselves from the other candidates that are applying for the same internship opportunities that you will be applying for.
So question. We didn't. I don't think we touched on the one of probably to me. So when I was doing resumes, life was different, right? Thankfully, I haven't had to do many resumes or vitas in this new world that we're living in right now, right? So when we talk about your knowledge, skills, and abilities in the grand scheme of things, like where does your work experience go if you've been fortunate enough to have work experience as a first year student? So is that somewhere that's in the middle, or does that come after you list your digital competencies or before?
After you've listed your applied digital skills, at that point, you really want to talk about any internship experience or work experience that you have done. But many times, freshmen, particularly young freshmen, have not really done anything, and they will want to revert back to things that they did in high school. I would caution you from that because you now have the opportunity to do several things. You can highlight work study opportunities if you wanted to list after your applied digital skills, work study jobs or on-campus jobs. You're able to, again, talk about your work study and, again, highlighting your knowledge, skills, and abilities. If you do not have a work study job, you're able to, again, talk about on-campus leadership and any office or position that you have held, but again, highlighting the KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities in those roles. If you've not done that, you have the opportunity to job shadow or do volunteerism. You have the opportunity to really talk about those and highlighting your KSAs. But I would tell students this. The pandemic has afforded us all the opportunity to really use our applied digital skills in this way. You are navigating YouTube to find this video. You are using Google Hangout. You are using the various virtual platforms, Zoom. You are using those types of platforms, and you should highlight that when you are listing your applied digital skills. But I would also share with you that you could list any virtual conferences that you may have attended or virtual workshops that you may have attended. You can really have a section after your applied digital skills that really talk about virtual conferences, virtual workshops, and you can find those on Handshake if you're using your Handshake account. But that is increasing your knowledge. Remember, everything is not always centered around a job opportunity. Oh, I don't have a job, so I can't really list anything. Well, you can share with an employer that I attended this virtual workshop and increased my knowledge in this area. This area complements my academic discipline, and this area has also made me more readily available to contribute to your organization right away. So you're able to, again, continue to gain knowledge, skills, and abilities without actually having to do an internship or actual work. So I hope I answered your question, Dr. Jeff.
So would we be able to kind of say that now, so that anything that gave us a knowledge, a skill, or a new ability is something noteworthy to put on the resume? It doesn't necessarily have to be a job.
Exactly.
Anything that allowed us to gain a new knowledge, a new skill, or an ability is noteworthy enough to put on the resume.
Correct. Exactly.
Okay, cool. All right. So I think that puts a lot of stuff in perspective. So I want to flash this down at the ticker. when we're talking about the nuts and bolts of our resume and the outlining, which is what you stated about getting the sheet of paper and beginning to write, that's what you all are doing, is you all are outlining all of the things that need to go on your resume. So you're really brainstorming, just like you would write a paper, or start writing a paper. You're doing that outline, you're doing that brainstorm on, the KSAs, like Dr. Wright said, the knowledge, skills, and abilities. And where did you get those things from? And then we're mapping it out as we go from there. So I think that we're at a great point where we can kind of wrap up in this instance, where we have a good starting block and a good foundation. But I do want my students to really understand that Dr. Wright said something earlier, and it was a jewel, and I don't know if you picked it up, but if you didn't, I went back to get it to bring it to you. I want you to understand that the resume is a living, breathing document. And as Dr. Wright said, as you grow, the resume grows. So the best thing, I think one of the best things to do, and how I try to make sure mine is current, is when I do something cool, or like when I do something that gets me a KSA, I go back and add it like within the week. So I can continue building. And then as as the world evolves and continues to move forward, there's some stuff that I don't really list on my resume anymore. And then there's some stuff that I bring to the top, or I highlight. And I want y'all to really understand that, because this is going to be a living, breathing document. And this is, for many of you all, it's going to be your first crack at actually trying to produce this living, breathing document. And that's why we're here to help. And I know that Dr. Wright would be grateful if you came into his office and scheduled an appointment, or, well, you don't have to come in anymore because we're digital. But you could schedule an appointment on Handshake to get some resume coaching and resume help. But if you can, Dr. Wright, share some of your contact information, and I'll make sure to try to highlight it at the end of the video. But I want you to share some of your contact information, how they can get in touch with you, and give me some final parting words to leave the students with.
Great. Blue Devils, you can always reach. You have a resource, and I would implore you to take advantage of the resource that you have. We are located, the Center for Career and Professional Development is located in the Student Union on the second floor in room 260. You are able to reach myself, Dr. Jonathan Wright, at jwright, JWRIGHT, at Dillard.edu, or you may reach the Assistant Director, Ms. Jordan Cockrell, at JCOCKRELL, Cockrell, at Dillard.edu. I would also ask that you claim your Handshake account. You can schedule an appointment for a resume review, job search, general career coaching session on Handshake. If you claim your Handshake account, you can take advantage of the career fairs that we're hosting March 3rd, 4th, and 5th. You can take advantage of some of those virtual workshops. You can connect with employers. I'm happy to help you navigate Handshake, learn more about Handshake. I'm happy to help you obtain internship opportunities. Just simply schedule an appointment. Stop by our office if you like. We're always open. We're welcome, and we're open from 8 to 5, and we have a welcoming environment, and our work study students are always eager to help. But if you would, please claim your Handshake account. Follow us on our social media, DU_CCPD. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. We're spotlighting students all month long, and we would love to have you as one of the students that we spotlight. So I'm so happy to have taken an opportunity to talk with you today. And if you have additional questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.
All right. So I want to thank Dr. Wright for attending and dropping some knowledge on us. And I encourage you to make sure that you get your resume done. Please submit it before the due date. And if you have any questions, I want you to refer back to this interview because there's some really good information on how to start, but more so how to finish as well. So if you have any questions, just please don't hesitate to reach out to Dr. Wright, schedule an appointment on Handshake. Because this is something that hopefully we can start for you at Dillard that follows you on after Dillard. That's what we want to happen. All right. So until next time, I will see you soon. All right. Bye.